light of California's devastating wildfires and the threat of climate change, Governor Gavin Newsom unveiled an executive order stating that by 2035, California car dealerships will exclusively be selling zero-emission cars. However, while I'm for electric cars and legislation that combats climate change, my stance on the issue tends to align with Mills when I say that this order is an overstepping of power. Before we go any further, let me outline a few terms. On the federal and state level, executive orders usually refer to a presidential or governor's orders that direct all the executive offices under his or her power to act a certain way. And when I discuss Mills, Nozick, and utilitarianism, I am referring to political philosophers and philosophies regarding government. Mills supported liberal democracy, a democracy defined by checks and balances, while Nozick believed in unaltered economic enterprise and a laissez-faire economy, and utilitarians believed in doing things that created the best qualitative good, meaning things that brought about substantial happiness rather than simply material pleasure. Governor Newsom's executive order on electric cars and carbon emissions prompts the California Air Resources Board to impose new regulations on in-state car sales. His order mandates that all cars being sold in the state have no emissions by 2035. The executive order even goes further, stating that the private and public sectors would work together to create affordable fueling and charging stations to help aid the process of growing the accessibility of electric cars. Newsom didn't stop there, however, as he vowed to ensure that all medium to heavy-duty vehicles will be zero emission by 2045 as well. Proponents of the order, like the governor and Democratic Assemblyman Phil Ting, see its benefits. Carbon emissions from vehicles pose a serious threat to the climate, and currently California is seeing this threat come to fruition in full force as we wake up to smoggy air and the continuous news of massive acre-burning wildfires. This sentiment is further supported by the fact that everyday and heavy-duty vehicles account for roughly 35% of the state's climate pollution, according to the MIT Tech Review. With all of these reasons in mind, the order has even garnered support from companies like Ford and Honda, who feel the focus on electric vehicles is necessary for the environmental sustainability of our future. Environmental benefits are the biggest motivator for many to bring their support to the bill, but there are many Californians who disagree with the governor's actions. Many of Newsom's opponents look at the order from an economic perspective. Companies like GM and Toyota find the order to be problematic as the economic challenges paired with the directive may be too much to handle. This order would require an overhaul of their fuel infrastructure and building codes, which could result in an extremely large price tag, all of which is discussed in a Cal Matters article by Rachel Becker. Beyond that, if the order were to take full effect, it could have ripple effects on other forms of businesses. And while some of this is simple economic speculation, the monetary undertaking required to overhaul countless facilities around the state, along with the potential increase in taxes required to fund the construction of mass charging stations, give opponents reason to stand against Newsom and his executive order. While Newsom's executive order is a well-intentioned form of legislation, it usurps the legislative body, neglecting the will of the people and the consumer, and restricting the mostly capitalistic free enterprise that defines this country. Although there is precedent for executive orders made by a governor, it encompasses and regulates areas of life in California that do not fall under the governor's direct jurisdiction. It's legislation, plain and simple. By issuing such an order, the governor has interfered with the business of the private sector, disregarding the interests and opinions of the people in the process. Like Mills, I find the government is best balanced, and by executing his will on business and on the law, he has compromised the democratic process. This should have been voted on and passed or failed based on the will of the people, and by not allowing such thing to occur, this can now be framed as an overreaching of power in an attempt to both consolidate power and disenfranchise the democratic process, all in the name of protection. Not everyone would agree with me, however, as someone like Nozick, who supports a strictly free laissez-faire economy, would say that this type of restriction should never be in the question to begin with. In his eyes, the economy and the world thrive when they are at their most Darwinian, with many assuming that this would mean that we would be self-correcting and find a clean, cheap alternative that would work for everyone without the need of legislation and restrictions, as it would be in our best interest to both survive and make max profit. However, left unchecked, anyone or any corporation has a tendency to fall into corruption, and in cases like this, there's a better likelihood that a broken system wouldn't be fixed, and cheap, dirty cars would continue to be sold as long as it made the business max profit. So my counter to Nozick is simple. How can we protect the rights of the people in the world when we allow for a profit-hungry body to exact their unquestioned will on the people? The answer is, we can't. The solution lies in the middle. We need some forms of protection in order to be sure that the climate isn't damaged by business, but those protections should come from the people, as they're the ones most affected by corporations and their polluting of the climate. Utilitarians may also disagree, as qualitatively speaking, protecting the future outweighs the potential risks. However, if we allow for this legislation to unfold, we could be risking the people because of one man. Thousands of jobs could be lost, and millions of dollars in business for California could leave the state. We have no idea how this could affect our economy in the short or long term in terms of both people and businesses leaving. So why risk a source of California's income when we can find other methods of generating substantial combatants to climate change? The greater good isn't found by ruining countless lives and driving money out of the state, all of which holds the risk of bringing ruin to the state. In favor of governor-created and governor-passed legislation that doesn't take into account the will and the desire of the people.